Welcome back. All right, let's talk about Raw tonight. So it's in between the second and third period of Dallas and Utah. I figure, I took some notes. I watched some Raw. Fun times were had. One thing about WWE having their events on Mondays and Fridays, those are quiet days in the NHL. Let me go ahead and turn my computer a little bit. It's just, it doesn't change the camera, but it looks weird. I'm seeing it from the wrong angle. But yeah, I can watch Raw, I can watch SmackDown, and if these reviews garner enough attention, I could maybe do that weekly. So tonight's Raw was from Everett, Washington. I am familiar with Everett, Washington. The traffic's terrible going through Everett, Washington, and in general in the town of Washington or town of Everett as well. It's not great, but fun event. Definitely seemed like a pretty good crowd. They gave a nice War Games recap. The colors are not necessarily different. Basically, tried to go with a color scheme, but yeah, it goes back and forth. So don't read too much into the colors. So CM Punk heads to the ring. Promo time. Little did we know that this was just kind of a setup for something completely off what we thought was going to happen. So Seth Rollins interrupts as expected. My favorite moment was CM Punk telling Seth Rollins he talks too much because you talk too much as a segment of Botchamania, and then Rollins said it as well. So there you go. Matthew and Botchamania get themselves a really nice soundbite there of you talk too much from both wrestlers. And I don't think that's accidental that wrestlers say that now. I think that Botchamania is kind of, it's known throughout the wrestling world. We'll put it that way. So things get brawly between the two of them because, of course, it does. Sami Zayn and Jey Uso come in to break it up. And there was a great exchange then by Seth and Sami. So they get Punk out and Jay's out. And the exchange between Seth and Sami, that promo was fantastic. And so they set up a match for later tonight. Judgment Day backstage segment. Clearly, there's two different groups in Judgment Day that are going to kind of break. And so they keep building towards that. Is Dom going to turn face? Is that where we're headed with this? That'll be interesting. Then they had a match between Damage Control, which was Io and Kairi Sane, against Raquel and Liv Morgan. So Raquel ends up getting the pin on Kairi Sane because that way neither the champ nor the challenger are involved in the pin, and it just keeps the storyline going. So from a storyline perspective, perfectly fine. I wish Kyrie had a bit of a higher profile in WWE, but there's only so much room for so many wrestlers. Kyrie Sane's fantastic, but again, so after the match, there's kind of a beat down. So Rhea comes out to make the save, and then they have a brawl, and then Rhea's orbital bone. Yeah, if her orbital bone was still broken, she wouldn't be out there. I just find that weird. Well, her bone, the bone has healed up, but they went after it. Okay, but it's healed up, so it's no more vulnerable, I wouldn't think, than any other body part. It's not like a separated shoulder where it gets easier and easier to do it. Then they had a nice backstage confrontation between Gunther and Finn. And he mentions that Dominik Mysterio pinned Priest. So Gunther decides, I'm going to fight Dom instead of Finn Balor. And so it continues this build-up of tension between members of Judgment Day, and I thought it was done really well. Gunther is a guy who just doesn't really give a damn, is fantastic. And the best part is, he's not really a face or a heel. He is kind of a classic tweener. And since Triple H is the guy behind the scenes who's running things, Triple H had his time as a tweener as well. And I think it works really well, especially as a champion. I think when a champion is willing to fight anybody, and he might fight dirty, he might fight clean, crowd might love him, they might hate him. I think it makes for a really good booking situation because you can book anybody in a program right now against Gunther, and it works. We then had a fight between Dakota Kai, Shayna Baszler, and Katana Chance, the Intercontinental title tournament. I do not understand what happened to Shayna Baszler and why WWE doesn't push her. I don't know if it's because she doesn't have the classic look of a WWE female wrestler. I don't know if there's a lack of fan reaction, but Shayna Baszler, honestly, when I see these two in here, I'm thinking if this was NXT, she just would have beat both of them up, stacked them like cordwood, and pinned them both at the same time. Shayna Baszler is no longer that wrestler, and so in the end, Dakota Kai pins Katana, and I was like, this is where Shayna would have come in and choked her out after if this was NXT. So if she doesn't win the triple threat, she still chokes everybody out and leaves. I I'm glad that Dakota gets to move on to the next round of the tournament. I'm sad for Shayna that her career just seems to have gone sideways, for lack of a better terminology here. Um, and then they had a New Day video package. We knew this was coming. This segment might have been the best segment I have seen on a wrestling program in a very long time. And I don't know how you quantify that, but oh my gosh, I had no idea. Like, I had expected, they had all these props in the ring, and I thought, okay, so Xavier's gonna turn against Kofi and all this crap in the ring. He's gonna use it to beat up Kofi, and he's gonna bust the picture over his head, and we're gonna have that moment of Kofi standing amongst wreckage, or yeah, Xavier standing amongst the wreckage while Kofi's laying there in the ring with this, you know, photo wrapped around his head. But did they ever swerve the entire universe with this? And I'm all for it. I got to be honest. Apparently, there's some debate online about whether or not this was the right move. I think it's a fantastic move. Look, if you break up Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, you're going to have a bit of a push for one or the other, maybe both if they're on different programs. But we know that they're not going to end up staying in a main event picture. We know that eventually they'd end up back together at some point. So you don't have to break them up. And the way they get to this is just it was brilliant. If you haven't seen the segment, I can't recommend it enough. But Big E comes out as expected. Everybody expected Big E to come out for this segment. He is not medically cleared. There was no announcement of I'm back in the ring. But they teased it. And I thought that, first off, Xavier Woods, after Big E says I want to manage you guys and I want to help you get through this and patch everything up, Xavier goes full heel on Big E, which I expected. I expected Xavier to say, heck no, we don't need, why, where have you been? And he talks about having a broken neck, and they named other wrestlers that had broken necks and talked about how those wrestlers all came back as if every broken neck is the same, which I thought was interesting. I was thinking, not every injury is of the same nature. So one wrestler coming back from a broken neck doesn't necessarily mean another can. But here we are. And then Kofi. Kofi went just as far heel as Xavier did. And I think that threw the crowd. Kofi agreed. He agreed. He's like, you would have been back if you wanted to be here. You didn't care about us. You're just here because it's this big celebration thing. And now you want to be the man. Now you want to help us? Forget it. We don't need you. Get out of the ring. And when Big E came in for a hug, Kofi puts his hand out and, no, I don't think so. Get out. Leave. And Big E, he played this up as well as he could. Not all wrestlers are fantastic actors. I thought Big E did a very good job. And I thought that the three of them sold it well. So it doesn't look like they're breaking up New Day. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. And it looks like now both of them are heels. So that was a fantastic turn. That is watching a heel turn in real time. And I've always loved it when that happens, because watching a crowd's reaction change, it's this thing of beauty. I don't know how far Kofi and Xavier go over as a heel tag team, but I think they'll go farther than they would as singles wrestlers. And now it kind of refreshes some of those feuds when they go back into tag matches against other teams, because now as heels and being willing to cheat, that kind of changes the game. They had a recap of the Scarlett Nikki Cross thing from last week, and Carrion yells and screams about, you guys wanted me, I want you, and yada yada yada. So that just not, they weren't on because this isn't a 3-hour show anymore, so they have to pick and choose who's on the air. And there were so many segments. Where are you going to put a wrestling match? So then they had Dominik Mysterio versus Gunther, and Dom was wrestling this kind of as the face. He did 2 619s. I thought it was creative how he did a 619 to the midsection of Gunther. And then he did one standard 619 like his father would have. And I'll be dipped. Dominik Mysterio, at this point in time, if they decide to really build him up a little bit, and he doesn't have to stop cheating. Eddie Guerrero didn't have to stop cheating when he became a face. So, yeah, maybe we got another lie, cheat, and steal, and maybe the fans are going to get behind him like they did behind Eddie Guerrero. I think that'd be fantastic, to be honest. So yeah, Gunther ends up winning, and then in comes Finn Balor, which is going to continue this Finn Balor Dominik Mysterio friction. And Finn Balor was later told backstage by Adam Pearce that now he gets a shot at Gunther at Saturday night's main event, which is on December 14th. And I looked at it. There are 15 NHL games that night. I will not be able to watch Saturday night's main event live. There's no way. There's just no chance that on a 15 game day in the NHL that I'm going to be able to watch it. So Kathy Kelly talks to Pete Dunne, who now the whole fact that his name was Butch when he got called up by NXT, now he hates the name Butch. And you know what? We all hated the name Butch. And now the gimmick is that he hates the name he had and he's back to being Pete Dunne. He had a fight with R-Truth. R-Truth gets the upset win. I saw that happen, and all I could think was, okay, so R-Truth gets an upset win. What next for Pete Dunne? It doesn't look like his feud with Sheamus is still going unless Sheamus comes back and that feud continues. But it feels like Dunne's getting pushed down the card, and I don't know how you start building him back up after this. I love R-Truth, but Pete Dunne probably shouldn't be losing to R-Truth at this point in time unless they have another plan to start building him back up. So then they had Kathy in the back talking to Braun, and then Ludwig Kaiser comes in, and Ludwig challenges Braun, and it looks like that's going to be a Saturday night's main event match as well. And again, that's, they'll get Finn and Gunther. So again, there were a lot of backstage segments in this event today. And then Seth Rollins versus Sami Zayn. Man, Seth worked as the heel, and they were really teasing that Jey Uso got attacked earlier in the night, and we didn't see who attacked Jey Uso, and that maybe it was Seth. And Sammy was convinced it was Seth to the point where, it seemed likely from the storyline they were telling here. And then Sammy goes out and gets a chair and has it like this. And Seth begs him off. Seth's like, I didn't do it. Begs him off. And then he did the roll up for the win. And I thought, okay, is Seth a heel at this point in time? Are they turning a bunch of guys today? No. So Rollins after says again to Sammy, it's not me. Think about it. Why would I do it? Why would I attack Jay? And then out of nowhere, it seemed, Drew with the Claymore. Drew McIntyre's back. He attacks Sammy. And if you're going to get the crowd to boo you, the best way to get that to happen is to attack Sami Zayn. So it was a very well done show. Maybe a bit heavy on segments, but coming out of Survivor Series, transitioning towards Saturday night's main event, there's a lot there. So I understand why there were so many backstage segments, and this is why Raw likely goes back to 3 hours when it goes to Netflix. I'd be very surprised if it's not back to 3 hours when it gets to Netflix, because then you're able to have more matches. You're able to tell all the stories and all the matches you want, and odds are SmackDown probably becomes 3 hours in the new year as well. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you watched Raw tonight, what you thought of it. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.